Hello everybody, it's Sarah, and if you cannot tell by me basically wearing my pajamas and also having on just enough makeup so I don't look like a fucking corpse, today is going to be a very low-key video because I have to write 5,000 to 6,000 words of a paper for uni, and I have to do that in the next 48 hours. So yeah, I am currently procrastinating, but I'm trying to at least procrastinate quickly. You get me? I hope you get me. Anyway, today we're going to talk about what I will read in October, which will sound like a lot because I have a lot of books here. However, this TBR, more than any other of my TBRs, is like I have a bunch of books that I maybe kind of want to read, but I really don't feel like reading all of them. I'm not gonna try to read all of them. I'll just pick up whatever I feel like the most. The reason for that is because in October, uni starts again for me, and yeah. I'm gonna start working on my master's thesis. Well, not really. I'm gonna start working on my master's thesis next semester, but this semester I will have to start, you know, doing my preliminary research, trying to find a supervisor and so on. So that's gotta be my deal with anthropology. I'm gonna have to finally finish my bachelor's in economics because the curriculum is about to change. So I could change curriculums technically, but then I'd have to take more exams. I don't want to do that, so I have to finally finish or get around to finishing my bachelor's in economics. And amidst all of that, I somehow also decided to start a new master's in African studies. So yeah, safe to say this semester is gonna be hell. It's gonna be a lot. And because of that, I want to take at least October very slow in what I'm reading. I don't want to push myself whatsoever because, yeah, I'm gonna have to push myself for uni, and I really want to get the vibes and everything for uni before I look at, you know, what I can do in terms of TBR and pushing myself in terms of fun reading stuff. So yeah, all of that to say, this will seem like a big TBR, but my goal is to read like 5 books of the TBR, and if I read 5 books off of the TBR, then I'm very happy. So yeah, as always, let's start with rereads that I have planned for October. First, I want to continue on with my Black Jewels reread. I read the original trilogy just now at the beginning of September. I really enjoyed it once again. Want to continue my reread because I also now finally ordered the new book that came out this year. But yeah, I want to reread the entirety of the series before I get to the new book. So that is the plan for that. I am starting with Dreams Made Flesh, and I don't really have any goal as for how many of the books I want to read in October. Then I want to reread the first 2 books in the Stormlight Archive series by Brandon Sanderson. This year, the entire year so far, I have taken part in the Crab-along, which is a year-long Cosmere read-along. Book for September technically was The Way of Kings, however I didn't pick it up because I didn't feel like it. And October is Words of Radiance, so I'm just gonna reread both in October. They're quite chunky books, but I have reread both multiple times, so even the first time around they were quite quick reads for me, and by now they definitely are, because sometimes on some rereads I just don't like read that closely, and I just very much skim read a lot of scenes and like chapters that I don't like as much. So I'll probably do that when I reread those 2. And then the last book I want to reread is another Brandon Sanderson novel, and that is Starsight, which is the 2nd book in the Skyward series. I reread Skyward this summer, I believe. I think either in June or July. And the 3rd book, Cytonic, comes out in November. So I want to reread this to be prepared for the 3rd book. And then I might also in October read, not reread, but read all of the novellas that are coming out soon, because currently Brandon Sanderson, I think at least one of them came out today, but Brandon Sanderson is publishing some novellas following some of the side characters in this series. And so I do also want to read those before I jump into Cytonic, but we'll see if I'll get to them in October or only at the beginning of November. So now that we have those out of the way, let's get to the one book that I have that I don't physically have here, because yeah, I'm taking it very slow in October, so I'm not really bothering trying to look for books that I don't have. I only really want to get books that I have, or get 2 books that I have this month. Part of that reason is because I saw the Illumicrate edition of The Song of Achilles and Circe, and I really want to get it. So I'm just gonna put myself on a as much as possible no buy for October, so I can then afford it at the end of October. But anyway, I have one book that I still need to get for October, and that is Wall of Storms by Ken Liu, which is the 2nd book in the Dandelion Dynasty. I read the 1st book at the very beginning of the year, absolutely loved it. The 3rd book comes out in November as well. And yeah, I let the entire year pass without catching up to the series and without trying to be ready as soon as possible for the 3rd book coming out. So I gotta read Wall of Storms in October so I can get ready for the 3rd book in November. But this is an adult high fantasy series. It's an Asian-inspired adult high fantasy series, and we mainly follow 2 characters in the 1st book in this kind of empire-esque world. Like, there's this tyrant king, whatever, I forgot what exactly he is, who tries to unite, or who did unite all parts of this world into an empire. And so we follow 2 characters. One is the son from a family that was killed during, you know, the conquering of the world. And the other one is kind of, he isn't a peasant, but you know, he's like not a noble or anything, and he kind of just makes his way through life. And I don't know what I'm trying to explain with this series. This is such a bad explanation for what this is. Basically, you're following 2 characters who are both amazing, who are quite the opposites of each other, but their lives kind of get intertwined, and they both have to do with, you know, this empire. That's basically what it is. Then a book I might easily get to because it's quite short is This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El Mohta. I probably butchered this name so badly, I am so sorry. And Max Gladstone. This is a science fiction novel, and as far as I know, we follow like 2 spies who fight on opposites of the war, but who constantly meet each other and who try to kill each other, and then maybe they fall in love or something. I don't know. I know almost nothing about this book. I just know that there's a lot of people who absolutely love it. And Scylla, who visited me this month, lent this to me. So I want to read this before December, which is probably when I'll go to Munich, because I always am in Munich in December. And yeah, so I can give it back to her in December. So I'll read this either this month or in November. One of the books off of my physical TBR that was a fixed October read from the very beginning of the year is Selected Tales by Edgar Allan Poe, because Edgar Allan Poe, of course, is a Gothic writer. So yeah, when better to read his tales than in October. And for the past 2 years I have now always read one type or the other type of Gothic classic in October. 2 years ago that was Dracula, last year it was Carmilla, and this year I guess I'm going for Edgar Allan Poe. A book that was on my September TBR but that I didn't get to, so I hope I'll get to it in October, is Wings of Shadow by Nikki Pau Preto, which is the last and 3rd book in the Crown of Feathers trilogy. This is a YA high fantasy trilogy, and we follow a girl who wants to become a phoenix rider. However, phoenix riders are all male, and so she disguises herself as a boy to get accepted into this, you know, community of phoenix riders. And then there's also like a rebellion and a tyranny and a lot of fun stuff included in the world building. But yeah, this is the last book. This is one of the few YA series that I still honestly really enjoy. I love the world building in this. Usually a lot of YA is, I don't want to say too shallow for me, but something that I very much enjoy about high fantasy and why I love high fantasy is the complexity. And a lot of times with YA, you just don't have the word count to probably get into the nitty-gritty things. However, with this series, I do feel like that's the case. I mean, all the books are quite long as well. This one is 600 pages, which is on the longer side for YA. So yeah, very excited to see how this series ends. Also, I love the cover. A video that I wanted to have published by the end of the year, but that I'll probably drag into next year, is my Reading International Fantasy video, because I haven't read any of those in a few months. I still have quite a few left that I want to read for that video, which is why on my October TBR I have Wizard of the Crow by... I'm sorry, I'm not gonna try to pronounce this because I know I will butcher it. And I know even if I give it my absolutely best shot, I have tried pronouncing African languages or words from African languages before, and I can't do it. But yeah, I have started this. I have read the first 20 pages of this. I'm not further into it yet. As far as I know, there's like something about a ruler and a republic, and I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of decolonial commentary in this, I believe, but it's quite a long book. It's quite chunky, and yeah, I'm excited to get into it, but also a bit, you know, scared, because as I said, it's a chunky book, and I think it's a very heavy book. Not in terms of like contents, but in terms of, you know, having to think while reading the book. Then instead of pulling from a physical TBR jar, I'm just gonna drag the last book that I pulled from the jar in September into October, because I started it. Once again, I have read the first 50 pages, and yeah, I'm just gonna finish this, and that's my TBR jar. That and Edgar Allan Poe is my TBR jar pick for October. But that book is The History of the Kings of Britain by Geoffrey of Monmouth. This is the first written down account that we have where King Arthur was mentioned. And this is a kind of half legendary, half fictionalized story, I believe, of, you know, legendary kings of Britain. And yeah, there's quite a few of those in here. I believe there's like 5 in here, going from Roman times to then going to Arthur. That's who it ends with, I believe. And yeah, so I'm gonna try to get through this. It's actually quite easily written. I mean, it's translated, as in it's translated from, I don't know which English was at the time, but like Old English to Modern English. So yeah, gonna be interested to see what I think of this. Then, since we are already at classics, in October I want to start reading these 2 volumes of all the collected works of Heinrich von Kleist, who is a German playwright, poet, writer from mostly the 19th century. I believe he lived at the beginning of the 19th century, although I'm not 100% sure on that. There's a very complicated reason of why I want to read his stuff, which I'll not get into. Mostly I just want to read one specific play, but I'm that person, I can't just pick out that one specific play from his plays. By the way, this is the volume that holds his plays. This is the volume that holds his prose, so his novellas, as well as his poetry, or some of his poetry. So I can't just go and simply read that one play that I want to read. No, I have to read the entirety of his collected works, which, to be honest, is not that much compared to other playwrights like Goethe, for example. So yeah, also he is one of my mom's favorite writers, like classic German writers. She used to study German literature, for those of you who don't know. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that before. These 2 volumes are also my mom's. This is why it's so pretty. It's like from the 50s or something. No, it's not from the 50s. It's from later on. But yeah, anyway, wanna start reading these. We'll see how many I get done in October. I have 3 more books left. 2 of those were birthday presents because I had a birthday in September, so maybe I'll get to them in October, maybe I don't. The first of those is The Women of Troy, which is a kind of sequel to The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. By the way, I also love this cover so much. And this starts after Silence of the Girls stops, which is, spoiler alert for the Iliad, I guess, which is after the death of Achilles. And in Silence of the Girls, we just follow Briseis, who was, within the original story, was a war prize of Achilles. And she's also the reason why Achilles decided to not fight, because Agamemnon took her away and stuff, and Achilles threw a hissy fit until he got her back. Anyway, The Silence of the Girls ends with Achilles' death and the taking of Troy, I believe. And then in this one, we don't just follow Briseis, but we follow the women of Troy. So we have Helen, we have Cassandra, we have Amina, who I actually don't know who she is. We have Hecuba, who was the queen of Troy, and we once again have Briseis. And we follow their stories. I have a bit of trepidation going into this because I really like the concept of The Silence of the Girls, and I'm not sure if that concept works with a sequel, because the concept of The Silence of the Girls was a little bit that, well, yes, we follow Briseis, it's not really Briseis' story, and she doesn't really have a voice in that story. So I'm gonna be interested to see if that concept is continued within the Women of Troy, or if we're just, you know, just not working with the concept anymore. But yeah, both excited as well as a bit hesitant going into this. Then I have a second Greek myth retelling that I also got for my birthday, and that is Ariadne by Jennifer Saint, which of course is an Ariadne retelling. So we follow Ariadne, who was the princess of Crete, kind of, I guess, and she helped Theseus kill the Minotaur, or, well, she gave him the way to find his way into and out of the labyrinth. And Theseus then took her with him, but then also left her on this island because I guess he didn't want her after all. And then in some versions of the myth, she marries Dionysus, or she catches the eye of Dionysus and then marries him. Which, by the way, I'm not considering any of this spoilers because I haven't read the book yet. I literally don't know how much of that myth we follow her on. So yeah, I don't know if she catches the eye of Dionysus by the end of this book or not. But yeah, I love this edition so much. I actually wanted to read this since it first came out, but I don't know, I couldn't bring myself to go and buy it because I really want the hardcover, because look at this. And then also look at this spine. I don't know if you can see it with the glaring thing, but yeah, I have a hard time allowing myself to buy hardcovers, because especially if my bookstore has the paperback, which a lot of times is like 10 euros cheaper than a hardcover, I'm like, I mean, I really want it, but also it's so expensive. But an amazing friend of mine heard me say that I'm kind of, you know, trying to argue with myself if I should get the hardcover or not, and she got me the hardcover because she's amazing. Also, I got her the book for her birthday as well, so that's fun. It's kind of a full circle. And then there's one last book that I have left on my TBR, and that is Velvet Was the Night by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This is the historical fiction set in 1970s Mexico City, and I believe it's a bit of a thriller-ish? I don't know. I actually have no clue what this genre is, but I saw it at my bookstore, I bought it. Also, Silvia Moreno Garcia, I have a very interesting relationship with her because I read both Gods of Jade and Shadow as well as Mexican Gothic in 2020. And Gods of Jade and Shadow was one of my favorite books of the year. It was on my list of my favorite books of the year. However, Mexican Gothic was either on my list of the biggest disappointments or my least favorite books of the year. So I really didn't like Mexican Gothic. So yeah, I still really want to pick up all of the books that Silvia Moreno Garcia put out this year so far. I think there's 3 as well as 1 novella. Not sure if I'm gonna get to the novella, but anyway. And so yeah, this is the first of those. Gonna see if I'll get to it in October. I should though, because I believe this is under 300 pages. Yeah, it's like really short. Excited to get to it. I do really like Silvia Moreno Garcia's writing. I think she is amazing at building tension and writing atmosphere. So yeah, we'll see how I enjoy this if I get to it. And yet it was kind of my very chaotic but also quite long TBR. But as I said, I really only intend to read 5 to 10 books this month, which is still a lot by a lot of standards, but not that much by what I've read so far this year. And yeah, tell me in the comments down below if you have read any of the books that I want to read in October and if I should prioritize any of the books. If you enjoyed this video, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All the links to my social media are in the description box down below, so go and check those out. All the links to my book club of Queens, Witches and Valkyries, where I read 1 adult high fantasy book written by a woman or genderqueer person per month, will also be left in the description box down below, so go and check those out as well. Although for October we actually don't have a book because, as I said, I just don't want to stress myself. So yeah, with all of that said, I hope I'll see you soon. Bye!